Good morning, Rajiv. We can see you very well.
Good morning, Dr. Rana.
Hi, good morning, Aparna. Good morning. Good to see you. Into a different role now.
That actually troubles everybody. But then you sometimes change, it improves or increases your vision and activity.
No, that's nice. No, it's very nice background. Very good.
This is more of an Indian background. That was a global background.
Rajiv, as usual, the driver of the train of Indian medical device industry.
Absolutely. Ek Rajiv sir or ek Dr. Sharma.
That's really wonderful seeing. And good to see how the policymakers are now considering the voice.
आप US नहीं जा रहे finally?
ना.
Recorded presentation भेज दीजिएगा एक छोटा सा.
कौन सा वाला? अच्छा, ठीक है.
I'll discuss that separately with you.
Okay. Travel seems to be tough now.
It's a long travel and visa requirements are a little stringent. Should we wait for 5 more minutes for everybody to join in?
Yeah, just
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I think we can start now. It's time up already.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning, everyone. Congratulations to everyone and wishing you all a very happy World Accreditation Day today.
Sir, same to you, sir. Wish you the same, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I think today is a very busy day for many organizations and many experts like Rajiv, Aparna, many participants like you for attending several events. And some of organizations have actually organized the whole accreditation week, for 6-7 days. And so I would say that 1 week of June, middle of this, is quite busy for accreditation or conformity assessment professionals. Not only India, around the globe. And this is an international event, which is actually flagged off by ILAC and IAF and the regional cooperation body like APAC, which we belong to. So I on behalf of everyone, I would say, welcome you all today on this webinar to just create an awareness. The whole idea behind celebrating a specific day is to create awareness and bring ideas to the table and connect with people, making a good network of like-minded professionals in order to create an ecosystem of conformity assessment in this case, and it can be any other topic and subject as well for deliberation. Because particularly, it's not first time, but particularly this year, for last couple of months, I have been seeing that almost every day is some international day. It's not just local day, but international day. So that's putting into my head to create a sort of a library of each day to say which day is international day for what, and that can be a library for a consultation for everyone around. So we at QAI would like to take this up. So thank you once again very much for joining today's webinar on to celebrate World Accreditation Day. And as you perhaps all know, the theme of this year's celebration is accreditation, supporting the future of global trade. And for those who are new to this area, the whole idea behind, the international equivalence, cooperation, ILAC, IAP, APAC, and all other regional corporations actually started from this idea by WTO, World Trade Organization, when there was a need felt that there are a lot of technical barriers for trade. We call it TBT, WTO TBT, technical barriers to trade. And those technical barriers to trade basically were prohibiting or restricting, entry of products, particularly products, if not services, to different countries. And so the export market was very, very restricted and limited. So idea behind this to remove technical barriers to trade is to international harmonization of practices, standards, which brings to products on similar platform and creates equivalence of acceptance. And it's become easier for not only for importing country, but regulators, or even the consumers to get into it and accept those products and services easily without any trouble. So those technical barrier to trade has been now traveled long ways, and we have quite strengthening of conformity assessment structure, infrastructure globally. Of course, certain countries have really gone much advanced, and India is not an exception to the list of those countries who have really gone quite far in establishing the conformity assessment ecosystem. So we today, going by the theme, we have two eminent speakers with us, Dr. Aparna Dhawan and Mr. Rajiv Nath, who have been into this area for last several years. And I will give them more introduction as their turn comes up. So again, just as if I would say, I welcome you all again for this specific event to celebrate the World Accreditation Day with the theme of supporting the future of global trade. And so with moving on to this agenda, let's start with our first speaker, Dr. Aparna Dhawan. And Aparna is not an unknown face in this field of ecosystem of conformity assessment. Currently, she is the senior counselor of Confederation of Industry, Indian Industry CII. Prior to that, she was the director of Tech Council in India, and prior to that, she was a joint director at ABCB Quality Council of India, and then before that, she was in NABL and several other organizations. So I know Aparna since I think 2002 or 3, if not mistaken, when we were together as colleague in NABL. So welcome, Aparna. Welcome, and thank you very much for giving your time. I know, as I mentioned in the beginning, everyone and experts like you guys are really busy, getting a lot of requests to join different seminars and speak on those. So she brings a lot of experience and expertise nationally and globally in conformity assessment area. And so we are really delighted to have Aparna with us today on sharing her thought on connected theme, like accreditation supporting the future of global trade. So now I will hand over the floor to Aparna. Over to you, Aparna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rana. Thank you for this excellent introduction, and good morning to all the participants, Mr. Rajiv Nath and Dr. Rana. And just to update you, he said, I know her since 2003. So he was my mentor when I joined, because I'd moved from an R&D word to a quality word. And to be very frank, the Q of quality was just not known to me. So Dr. Rana was a mentor at that time when I joined NABL. And then we both have moved big ways in this whole area. And let me also tell you, he's mentioning that everybody is busy. He's equally busy because he is going to be speaking throughout the day in different events as well today. So that is his humbleness that he has mentioned it. Considering that, can you just give me sharing rights for the presentation? I will make it short and quick just to explain you about the world. All right. So I would again like to wish everybody a happy World Accreditation Day. I need to, I think, share it again, because in case I mute, then the sharing stops.
Oh, it was shared.
No, I know it was shared, but there is a glitch which happens when you use one of those mute options up there. So that's our institute where I work, based in Bangalore, and it's a green building. Focusing now on the accreditation part of it, we all know that we are living in a world wherein there was a time when products used to be imported to India and we would all say, this is an export product, iska quality would be good. But times have changed. Our country has advanced and we are one of the developed countries whose GDP is increasing every day. And there is a movement of goods and services across the world, from one country to another, irrespective whether it's India or it's any other country. But what has happened is, especially after the COVID, there has been a lot of stress given on the supply chains, because supply chains have become complex. People source different products from different parts of the world. And as a result of this, what is also happening, there is a change in the regulatory framework in each economy. If you would all know, there's a lot of hue and cry in the Indian industry going on because of the carbon border adjustment mechanism, which EU has implemented, because that is going to be affecting the trade in certain sectors like cement, steel, etc. in India. So regulatory framework by each economy is changing. That is somewhere there is an effect on the international trade. Then the raw material supplies need a quality assurance mechanism, which on certain cases is harmonized, in some cases is not harmonized. And as all of us are aware, every layman is aware about the digital revolution which has happened. In India, especially, you have that UPI which is working, the Paytm, and everybody is using it from a small vendor to a bigger vendor. But when you use those technical terms, there are terms like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, data protection, fraud, etc. So with these growing concerns, there is a need that these elements are integrated both in the quality as well as international trade framework. And we as consumers are getting conscious related to our health issues. We want products which are approved, which are certified. We look for the expiry date. We look for a tag out there. So everything out there has changed. The entire scenario of international trade has changed. As a result of this, what has happened is there has become a need wherein we develop a system of trust, and wherein that trust which comes also assures the quality of the goods and services. So what has happened is there is an increase in the number of regulations, voluntary standards, conformity assessment, which all form a framework of quality infrastructure. So it's the standards, the conformity assessment, the metrological institutes with accreditation, QAI being an accreditation body, it forms a framework of trust and quality infrastructure. Now, this is particularly important because it assures quality. The whole framework works to assure quality for the consumers, for the government and the regulators, for the industry bodies, as well as it ensures the quality of goods which are from the country of origin. All right. So when we talk about the quality infrastructure framework, globally, what we have seen is there are barriers which are implemented due to this conformity assessment procedures, and a survey and a result somewhere mentioned that 80%, 70% of the barrier are due to the conformity assessment structure, because they have not been implemented appropriately and there is no assurance of goods and services at some point of time. Now there have been efforts done by international organizations like UNIDO, OECD, UNECE, World Bank, wherein what they have propagated is there has to be a more usage of the conformity assessment practices, because what actually happens is when you have a growing economy and using conformity assessment practices across the entire industry chain promotes the movement of goods as well as production from the SMEs. SMEs is particularly important from an India framework point of view, because we need to provide a level playing field to them as well. So these procedures, use of standards, use of conformity assessment procedures, seeking accreditation, are activities which help unlock the trade potentials and help the developing economy. So UNECE has published a trade recommendation to encourage national authorities to base their recommendation on international standards. Now, why international standards is particularly important is because today, if we see where goods are moving from one service. I am a manufacturer of something as simple as this bottled water, and I want to export this to the SAARC countries and the Middle East. Now, different countries in the Middle East, as well as something as small as the SAARC countries with limited nations, come out with their own standards and their own regulations, and they say that the manufacturer has to comply with these regulations. Imagine to sell the product within my economy, as well as to sell the product within the international countries, I will have to comply with more than 20 regulations. it becomes so cumbersome. How do I manage to ensure that there is a trading which is happening? I would be all the time busy hiring people who are complying with the regulation. Although the quality of product is similar. One country has put that packaging material, this has to be there. Somebody has put that your label claims have to be there. Somebody said, no, I accept something of chloride content as even 5 ppm, fine. No, that doesn't allow. So it's just not you, UNECE. Other organizations like W2A, Dr. Rana has already mentioned, you need to have all published papers and recommendations wherein they have said that there have to be international standards which have to be used, and conformity assessment tool is another way in which we are helping businesses comply effectively and efficiently to the regulations and the standard across the globe. Now, why conformity assessment is, if there is a standard, you follow the compliance to the standard. How do you ensure that the product is good? You have the element of conformity assessment built in there. Now, how do you ensure that these conformity assessment bodies are effectively functioning? So there you have the accreditation bodies who come into role, who come and monitor and ensure that the products and the goods and the conformity assessment procedures which have been followed by these conformity assessment bodies are adequate or not. And they range in different standards from testing lab to inspection bodies to certification bodies. QAI being a an accreditation body is undertaking different activities in this area and in a way trying to support the barrier to the trade. Now, what happens about the benefits to the accreditation is, because it supports and it does not allow you, for example, irrespective of a regulatory requirement, there would always be a requirement that the product has to be tested in an accredited organization, accredited conformity assessment body, which is under a mutual recognition arrangement with the regional and the international bodies. So when we talk about the regional and the international bodies, it would be in the Asia Pacific Accreditation Corporation, APAC, which we call it, of which QAI has now become the MRA partner. And internationally, when APAC links, it is to ILAC, that is International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, as well as IF, International Accreditation Forum. So these are the two areas to which we have linkages, and this is how it allows the movement of goods and services, because by getting it tested or inspected or certified by an accredited MRA partner, you are avoiding the duplication of retesting or reinspection or recertification. Because as per the mutual recognition arrangement, the MRA partners' reports have to be agreed in the APAC and the ILAC IF MRA regions. And globally, there are more than 100 mutual arrangements which exist, which get accepted in different countries. And this is one single worldwide program which reduces the risks to the businesses, to the regulators, and assures the quality to the consumers. So accreditation facilitates the international free trade in an effective manner by allowing the acceptance of reports, results, and test reports. Also, what happens is, under accreditation, all these accreditation body follow an international standard, which is different from for different activities, which emphasizes on the need for competence to be reviewed and built in appropriately. Now, competence requirement is something of extreme importance, because if you don't have competent people working in a particular area, how do you ensure that the results of the reports are going to be correct? So there is a lot of stress being given in all the international standards on competence. Lately, what has also been done is there is also been an importance on the aspect of ensuring impartiality and independence and adequate risk analysis. So these international standards have also given stress on these three other areas so that you can be assured that the bodies who are accredited by accreditation body, which is an MRA partner to APAC, ILAC and IF, have people who work independently, impartiality, have undergone a good review about their knowledge and skill, and as a result of which they are found to be competent, thereby allowing the equivalence of the report results in testing, inspection, certification, validation, and verification. So what are the other benefits of accreditation, whereby it is allowing and supporting the world trade is, it also ensures that the compliance to the standards is there. Also, as I said about the impartiality, integrity is also ensured because there are checks and balances which is built under the accreditation framework, which ensures the integrity of the conformity assessment bodies. It also allows you to choose credible conformity assessment bodies within the market, because if it is from an APAC, if it is from an MRA accreditation body partner, you can be assured that the conformity assessment body is credible. Also, what happens is when the accreditation bodies are given MRA, it is after a very rigorous assessment, because there is once a need that you have to be running an accreditation program for minimum 2 to 3 years, because the whole cycle has to be completed. A peer evaluation is conducted, a review is done, an independent committee reviews those requirements, and then an MRA is given. So Dr. Rana would easily be able to tell you it would have taken his organization at least 4 years to seek this MRA, allowing that when his organization, the accredited bodies issuing reports from his organization have acceptance in the international market. So through this mechanism, what happens is there is a provision wherein we are eliminating the barrier to the trade. So that was about how accreditation supports the international trade. I'll quickly go through what my organization does. CII, all of you are aware about, but then we have a Center for Excellence, which is called as the Institute of Quality. The whole purpose is that we ensure a competitiveness in the market. And as a result of this, these are the different ways in which CII-IQ has moved. But we exclusively work in the area of quality, metrology, and standard. There is a vertical which is there, which I am heading that. And through that vertical, we ensure that we support our stakeholders, be it accreditation body, be it conformity assessment bodies, industry, so that they're able to facilitate international trade, seeking the support of accreditation body as well as conformity assessment bodies. So these are the different activities of roles and functions. I will not go into the detail because of the paucity of time. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to take that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aparna. Thank you very much for very crisp and very clear presentation on the subject. And it's really very, very interesting to know that how things can, move. And as I mentioned, WTO, and you also mentioned, it makes life easier for everyone, all the stakeholders, otherwise, all people always ask question. And that's why actually all the reason is that when you use mobile phones and chargers, the C3 type or any type, you can use anywhere in the world, because all slots are made to same standard. So you don't need to carry a different types of charging equipment. So thank you once again, Aparna, and we'll hold you for some more time if they have any questions moving forward. And I just want to mention again, Sia, that Aparna is also driving not only nationally but internationally. I mentioned she also chairs APAC's CPC committee, which is Communication and Promotion Committee, to create awareness about the conformity assessment ecosystem in APAC region. So thank you very much, Aparna, for joining us today. So now, before I ask Rajiv, I'll come in between Aparna, Rajiv, to take you through some of the aspects of how this day is also related to our Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations. And this is again a very important and critical area, when people talk about global concerns and global goods and trades, services, they are somewhere, linked with our United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And now the sustainability is one of the key component in all the businesses, how you make life easier for future generations and make it easy. So we at Quality and Accreditation Institute, the very young organization, started off in 2017 as an accreditation organization. We are into different verticals, and we are into healthcare accreditation programs and laboratory accreditation. So World Accreditation for us is actually dual responsibility. On one hand, about complete ISO-based standard conformity assessment, and on the other hand, which is non-ISO standards, which we follow a different route for accreditation of healthcare organization. But the basic principles of any type of accreditation remain same. So accreditation supports United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and I'm sure there are people around who knows about them, particularly for the relevance of this topic for accreditation. There are a couple of goals out of all goals available from United Nations, critically linked to accreditation and supporting. The first is about no poverty. It means how we can help, eradicating extreme poverty. All people everywhere. It's not just restricted with boundaries. It's a boundaryless phenomena globally. And as Aparna just mentioned about global goods and service trading, the movement, and poverty means how it happens when people don't have, resources to sustain and survive. It means they need to be supported through either through employment, either through providing some sort of assistance in their living and well-being. So of course, all these areas are definitely connected to goods and services. And when we talk about goods and services, to ensure their quality, that ensures their acceptance nationally and globally, the accreditation comes in. Similarly, about hunger, which is again related to poverty as well, is one of the component is aiming to reach zero hunger, and if not, at least reduce to zero. So how we can help, and accreditation can help in creating the world which is free from hunger. And again, it will be linked definitely for different services which are being delivered through harmonized protocol, different products which are being produced, and they require a lot of resources which generate employment as well. Then again linked to the hunger, and because if you have resources, you have money, you have funds, you won't be hungry. Third goal is about good health and well-being, and this is one of the most important goal for us as QAI, as an accreditation organization, because we run accreditation program for healthcare quite extensively, and we really help our stakeholders to achieve a benchmark where they can claim they are operating in a global standards, they are operating at par with some other organization. And so this is about ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being at all ages. It's not just about disease, it's not just about treating the problem, but it's more about promoting the well-being, how you create an ecosystem for wellness. So you should not fall sick. It's like we used to say prevention is better than cure. Why we should fall sick if we take precautions? So well-being is one of the most important components. And then fifth is gender equality. Not differentiating between any gender and providing equal opportunity to both the gender. And it has been really tremendously grown up by when several organizations have come forward, smaller and big, to demonstrate their commitment to gender equality. And I think there are certain ISO standards. I'm not an expert of all those goals and related standards, but there are several standards within ISO and other international organizations who have published on gender equality and how the system can be created to make the gender equal environment. Eighth goal is about decent work and economic growth, and definitely this is very much which is directly related to conformity assessment, how to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, employment and decent work for all, creating opportunities for more avenues for businesses, creating opportunities and avenues for more employment, how to sustain. So sustainability again is very, very important. It's not just you just started off and then perished. No, it has to be a sustainable model, and how this conformity assessment structure, as well as the standards for global harmonization can help in achieving this goal. Ninth is about industry innovation and infrastructure. This is again a directly linked goal with conformity assessment and accreditation, where we talk about different industries. Almost all industry we talk about is related to accreditation and its support mechanism, whether it's any automobile, it is aviation, it is the health, it is agriculture. Any industry you talk about, it is actually have a direct link, because you a lot of products coming out, a lot of services being made available. So all those need to be set as the globalization and standards. How the system and accreditation can help reducing inequalities and ensuring no one is left behind. This is about equal opportunities amongst everyone. It's not just only the richer get something, the poor don't get. It should not be a divide between two groups based on any of the factors, whether it's financing, whether it is economic status, whether it is geographical distribution. It can be anything. It should not be linked to any of these factors for dividing people or communities. It has to be on the same platform and opportunities for equals. The 14 goals lie below water, of course, and how to help support conserving and sustainability in ocean, seas, and marine resources, which are very good source of food ecosystem. Getting into it, a lot of people survive on them, the resources made available to them. So how accreditation can really help. And there are, of course, testing, inspection, certification, like Aparna mentioned in her address, is directly linked with upliftment of this area through accreditation. Then 17th, of course, is the last one in the series, which actually accreditation is linked with partnership for the goals. So all the goals, how we can really help each other and how we can partner with the global organizations, individuals, organizations for sustainable development. So it's not like somebody work in isolation. It's a collaborative approach. It has to be a collaborative approach because collaboration brings strength. And when you have a strength built up, of course, the improvement is quite quick. The development is faster, and hence that every goal around it can be taken up in shorter time than working in isolation. So how basically is linked with accreditation and SDGs is, as Aparna mentioned, and I'm sure it will keep coming on and on. Accreditation ensures that products or the goods and services meet stated requirements, and those requirements can be prescribed by any consumer, any user of those goods and services within domestic market or an international market. Goods and services directly impact development of the society. Of course, really, and that's again linked with poverty, linked with upliftment of the people, linked with equalities amongst different strata and economic development. It links our goods and services to different sectors, like technology. Every sector needs technology for improvement, for development, and technology is now paving this very smart way to help organizations and systems to build quicker models and efficient and effective models and organizations. Capacity building, education, health, and capacity building is a very large umbrella. It can be any sort of capacity, whether it is a skills training or education, or it's a specialized, you can think of, or in the processes or on technical aspects. So it is enormous opportunities around that. We at QAI, how we can say that we come into it, as I just mentioned, Center for Laboratory Accreditation, which is set up within QAI, provides 5 accreditation certification programs. 4 are based on international ISO standards, testing, calibration, medical lab, and biobanking. And of course, this is very clear demonstration of how the accreditation is helping in global movement of goods and services. And we are full member and signatory to a pact for medical testing and testing programs since last year. We are also internationally recognized by ILAC by signing MRA with ILAC for medical and testing programs in order to facilitate global trade. The idea behind is how accreditation body can help its consumers its users of services, conformity assessment infrastructure to drive the agenda of global acceptance, complying with global standards of different sectors. In addition to that, which is hardcore conformity assessment, in healthcare, we have a vertical for healthcare accreditation. And we cover a whole range of activities, starting from a clinic to ambulatory care, to hospital, to home care, to transition or rehab centers, transition care, telehealth, home hotels and homestays, dialysis, IVF centers, emergency department, green healthcare facility. And we have World Environment Day celebrated on 5th of June, which actually aims to reduce carbon footprinting and carbon trade. So this is keeping in mind with WHO standards for green healthcare facilities, patient safety for WHO standards, and stroke centers. So this we have this, and these again are linked to what we're talking about, the global movement of services in healthcare. And accreditation and universal health coverage, USC, is very much linked to Sustainable Development Goal 3 and sub-goal 3.8, which is actually universal health coverage, which universal health coverage means that providing, is on the national governments to provide its citizens and a care which is affordable, accessible, and quality. So quality care which is affordable and accessible is universal health coverage, and Government of India is really to be commended for their efforts in driving universal health coverage through Ayushman Bharat Yojana under Prime Minister Ayushman Bharat Yojana, which is driving, around 40% of population is covered under Ayushman Bharat Yojana. So this is directly linked with the programs. This vertical of healthcare accreditation is also internationally recognized by International Society for Quality Healthcare. It's like the ILAC, MRA for our laboratory vertical. This is for our healthcare vertical. This is our mark of accreditation that gives confidence to the users and the users to rely on the services or the product that they are getting tested in or they're getting services in. It's a healthcare facility to rely on that they really comply to not only the national standards, regulations, but also the international standards. So the whole ecosystem of conformity assessment and movement of global services. And in healthcare, many of may not be knowing, even that we talk more on the goods and on the products, but in services, in the healthcare services, like when a person moves from one country to another country, even for employment or short-term or long-term, or even for the residency, permanent residency, they need to be medically checked up, And so the medical checkup done in an accredited hospital under international, international umbrella of ISCO accredited organization is actually helps in movement of those acceptance. It is global acceptance of those services and similarly, the insurance company also accept such a mechanism of equivalence. So this is all from QAI's perspective and how QAI being an accreditation body helping through accreditation mechanism to stakeholders and the citizens of country, the consumers at the end, who are the final, actually the recipient of any mechanism, whether it's regulation or standardization or accreditation. In healthcare, the patient is the end user, and in other, everyone, any consumer is actually the. So this was from us to give you a little different flavor around it. I'll now move forward to the next speaker, Mr. Rajiv Nath, and Rajiv is not a new entrant to this forum. Rajiv is basically the founder and a forum coordinator of IMET. As you can see, he had his the background with Association of Indian Medical Device Industry. He is a keen proponent of promoting the quality and standardization. But at the main end, these are his own honorary work, which he really put his time on to provide service to the country and industry. But at back, he is the managing director of HFD, which is Hindustan Syringe and Medical Devices Company, which is one of the best, I can say. And I can say, based on my observation during COVID-19, how HFD really helps, the whole, not only the India, but all many countries abroad in supplying, these equipment like syringes or auto cut syringes and delivering vaccines and different vaccines. So commendable work HMD has done back end during COVID and continuing doing it. And Rajiv has traveled over 50 countries. I lost count of his travel to different countries on things. And he represents into different national and international fora, including United Nations, the WHO, UNIDO, several organizations. And he's a strong proponent and advocate of policy change for the betterment. And one of the latest example is Government of India coming out with medical device policy, which he through IMED was chasing through for last several, I would say more than 10 years, which has brought food. So commendable work, Rajiv. Congratulations to you and all the partners with them. And we are really happy and delighted to have you for your time and presence. And now I will leave you with your presentation, which you're going to talk about India's leading role in global trade. Now, floor is all yours, Rajiv. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rana. Thank you for the opportunity of inviting us over here. It's been very interesting hearing Aparna ji giving us education about accreditation and the role it has on allowing global trade to flourish. Your presentation focusing upon the SDGs and how accreditation helps in achieving that and QAI's role in achieving that. I will go to a slightly more micro level presentation over there. So this will be more of a giving an example as to how you can find in one particular product category, accreditation is playing definitely a role, and how we are trying to use that to give us a competitive advantage in India over here in terms of global trade. Is my presentation visible to all?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So we do think definitely India has done very well globally in IT, in pharma, now more closely in mobile phones, and now toys are coming up. But we do think that the next big story is medical devices. And yes, the government is also now focused on that. And like Dr. Rana just mentioned, we've had just a few weeks back the medical device policy being announced by the government of India to foster the country's success on that. So IMED is an association which represents medical devices nationally in the country with more than 600 members. 400 are primary manufacturers and 200 are associate stakeholders. Unfortunately, India has been 80% import dependent. So our part of the global trade is on the receiving end, not so much on the giving end historically. And this has been coming into various baskets. The green is the electronics basket. Then you have the disposables and consumables. You got the surgical instrumentation, you got the IVD reagents, and you've got the implants. These are the imports which are going up rapidly year on year. The only good news is that last year now we've been able to stall the imports. So the latest data is not in the presentation, but it was just calculated yesterday only. It's now stalled at 61,000 crore rupees. This is in terms of our role in the global trade, in terms of exports. So here, the story is slightly better. We are increasing every year rapidly. Even last year's exports, you can see, are rising in a very steady manner. Even last year's exports went up by another 16%, from 24,000 crore rupees to 27,000 crore rupees. So year on year, you can see a steady growth rate which is coming across. And that's coming across all the segments. You do have many of us who've been able to break the glass barriers and have been able to be internationally competitive. Now, this is typically the scenario in India in most cases. Either we don't have regulations or we don't follow regulations. And when we don't respect regulations, even where we have regulations, then you have this chaos, which you can see over here. So you have traffic jams and this kind of scenario, which is typical in India, where everybody's trying to be ahead, actually slowing us down. Whereas in case everybody follows what they are supposed to be doing as part of the team role we are supposed to be playing, and you follow a disciplined role which regulations provide, we can actually speed up. So you have countries like Germany, where you have actually a minimum speed limit on the highways and not a maximum speed limit. And again, over here, you will find, this is a typical example, you'll find that there's a traffic jam now and people, by the regulations, they've gone on the left and right hand side of the road, giving the center lane completely free for the emergency vehicles to go in and debottleneck the traffic jam over there. In India, we are very familiar how to become 2 lanes to 3 lanes, 3 lanes to 4 lanes, traffic immediately flowing like water onto the next road, and then finding ways around that. And like water finds its ways around the rocks, people will try to find ways around parked vehicles even on the opposite side of the road. But that again, of course, is leading to chaos. This is our quality structure in India, infrastructure wise, what you can say. So you have the standard making body. Standard making bodies can be something like a BIS. It can be something like a sector scale council. It can be an association which defines the standards. It can also be adoption of standards in a scheme, for example, the ICMET scheme from QCI. I'll come to that later. And then you have regulators in each segment, whether the auto sector, Ayush, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, toys, where you have a technical regulator who will monitor and define what the regulations will be. So which standards to be evolved and what kind of compliance mechanism to be done. And then you've got this system of conformity assessment. People have to demonstrate either by testing or by quality management systems or by certification, by auditing their plants, by certification bodies. And then the certification bodies are the ones who have to get accreditation. And just now you heard both Dr. Rana and Madam Aparna ji explaining to you that how international global trade is supported by this kind of system, because then you have mutual recognition agreements and flow of goods between one country to another country, especially for FTA countries where you have free trade agreements. And then it becomes important that where you have a free trade agreement, there are no tariff barriers for movement of goods. Then the only barrier which are available for being like a roadblock or being like a hurdle for the goods movement is the non-tariff barriers. And in the non-tariff barriers, then you may have, in certain cases, MRAs, which will allow you to circumvent those NTBs or reduce them. So instead of being a wall, they'll become a small hurdle to cross. So in considering this for the MRAs, typically people try to demonstrate that their quality standards are global standards. What they're making is as per international standards. And this is something where India becomes slightly challenged, or Indian manufacturers become challenged to operate in the global market. And why is that? We have a very robust BIS, which is the Bureau of Indian Standards. Unfortunately, the Bureau of Indian Standards, the standards which are made over there are for Indian standards. And in most cases, they are not harmonized to international standards historically. Now, for the last few years, an active initiative is ongoing, whereby standards are being reviewed periodically and rapidly. And stakeholders like us from IMED are pushing in and seeking more harmonization of the Indian standards to international standards. And why is that? Because like you just now heard from both the speakers, that for an MRA, it's important that the standards need to be equivalent in both the countries. And once the standards are to international standards, they are harmonized equivalent to both the countries. There's an accreditation system, whether from the laboratory confirmation side, whether from the certification conformity side or the audit conformity side. That kind of competence gives the confidence to both the countries that they can allow the goods to move without going through the filtering process over there. So by an MRA, you can actually have a fast tracking of the trade over there in spite of the technical regulations or NTBs which might be present over there. So considering this strategically a few years back, IMED, along with the Quality Council of India, had taken the initiative and introduced quality certification, ICMED certifications, which were to QMS standards, global QMS standards built around the ISO 13485 and the ICMED 13485 Plus, which is a product certification scheme to demonstrate compliance to global standards. So this is a one step beyond compliance to BIS, because if we make a product, suppose we make a syringe which is compliance to a BIS standard, it will not automatically mean that we'll be able to enter into a country easily. We still will have to go through the regulatory review process, and the regulatory review process can be a very challenging one. But yes, if you have the competency and you've got the right kind of certification, and that certification is by accredited organizations, then those hurdles become easier for us to accomplish. And this is something which we wanted to do it for the whole sector, because until this year, we did not actually have technical regulations for medical devices across the board. So unlike pharmaceutical or food, medical devices were not regulated until this year. And then how do you demonstrate compliance to international technical regulations when your country itself does not have technical regulations? So this was the system that was created. We have the scheme in which you have at the bottom of the pyramid, the QMS. You got additional regulatory requirements, which are common to most countries. You got certain labeling requirements. Aparna ji was mentioning about that for in terms of global trade. And then you got for innovative products where there are no product standards available, you got essential principles for patient safety. And based on this essential principles for patient safety and usage of horizontal standards, you demonstrate that your product is meeting safety requirements for patient safety, and then you can possibly be certified. And in few cases where you have a global ISO standard, based on that, you can take the ICMET Plus certification. Now we're moving from that and trying to seek, for example, an MRA with the AsiaMed or with the MDSAP certification going forward. So it'd be much more easier for the ICMET certified manufacturers to enter these markets based on this MRA, which we hope the country will be able to negotiate with either with UK or with the Asian bloc or with the MDSAP certification. And this will allow us, when India becomes more globally competitive, and now certain policies, like I mentioned, for medical devices have been announced. This is now opening a positioning over here where overseas manufacturer can come in and invest in India, either through technical collaborations or as joint ventures or under FDI. And this is the huge opportunity available over here for tapping the $20 billion market through a $10 billion investment. And this is a strategic plan which we are working on with Invest India. In the last few years, a lot of initiatives have been taken by Government of India and various ministries, DST, DBT, MIT. And these are the details over here. For the paucity of time, I will not go through that. But yes, the ecosystem is evolving, and we'll be having already more such cases over there. And the parliamentary committees, both Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Petition Committee, have been supporting the cause of medical devices and pushing the government for having a separate decriminalized law, a separate department for medical devices, and bringing in a more revamped PLI scheme and a MedTech Park scheme, which will allow more manufacturing to thrive over there. And to also have public procurement, which IMED is recommending, should not be based on lowest price basis. It needs to be based on quality. So 2 budgets back, the FM had announced quality-based selection criteria in public procurement. And that's the way forward, whereby having objectivity and competent manufacturers demonstrating compliance to global standards. So an ICMET certificate or a Design India certificate for innovation and design are the ways forward to give an advantage or preference in public procurement in the country over there, rather than asking manufacturers to demonstrate compliance to US FDA or C certification. So this is what going forward for global trade. We are already under negotiations with the US FDA and with the international regulators for collaborative mechanism with the GSTF countries. We want India to be part of the IMDRF, certain centers for excellence in regulatory science to be created, like the NIPERS, NHITD, Anna University in Chennai, for example. And like I mentioned to you, we are pushing for the standards, not only for compliance of products, but in all aspects of conformity to be equivalent to international standards or harmonized with international standards. And this will permit better accreditation and better positioning of India as a globally competitive supplier for medical devices, and then we can be second factory in the world for medical devices internationally. So in COVID times, we've seen that mountains were moved by teamwork. Complete disruption of supply chain has happened. The most common theme I hear internationally now is diversification of supply chain. Countries which were completely dependent upon a few countries like China are now keenly watching India, and we have a space in India in the global trade, which we have to take an advantage of. So like pharmaceutical industry, IT has built credibility over the years. Similarly, now is the time for mobile phones, toys, medical devices to take things forward and build credibility for India as a serious player in the international supply chain. Automobile also we've seen over there has done wonders in the last few years. And going forward, we are very confident that we can move by teamwork. Now the Export Promotion Council from India also is taking off for medical devices this year. It's already been approved, and it will be hosted at Noida Export Processing Zone at YAIDA. And there'll be regional offices initially at Hyderabad and at Visakhapatnam. Later on, we'll have more regional offices in the Bombay, Ahmedabad area or other regions where exports are tremendous. So going forward, you can look forward to a more opportunistic area in the area of medical devices. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Wonderful. I think so many things you put into few slides, very crisp information. And I think though I have been following IMED and you particularly in many groups and been aware of anything, but still many things were very new to me. So thank you very much for all those insights. And I think this is what is important for all of us. Our stakeholders need to know what's going on, what has happened already, and what is in the pipeline to be happened. How things have changed and which have changed because of the demand from the stakeholders, from the industries, just not what they want, but what the consumers are looking for. In your case, like a medical devices is like an area where particularly COVID-19 told everyone that how these medical devices are important of quality grade. It's not just any medical device, it's to be of quality. You can't have any injection which does not serve any purpose or any PPE without any protecting anyone on this. So I think that's very, very critical that how the pandemic actually driven things to, I would say, the force people to do that in a better way. And thanks to you and IMED, in fact, into doing a lot of advocacy with the government and regulators to make it happen. And we have seen it, how things are changing and how the standards are being revised and trying to be at par with the global standards. So thank you very much, Rajiv. Really delighted to have you and listen from you directly that what's going on in this area of the medical devices, particularly, and in relation to the conformity assessment as well. And ICMED scheme, well done on that. I just am telling because of the people here, I am aware how you have really worked to chase the QCI and other partners to make it happen. So really commendable work. And I think this has already set the benchmark for the industry. So thank you once again, Rajiv. Thanks, Aparna. And I think we are coming to the close also in time. And any participant have any quick reaction? Anyone? Okay. So not then thank you all of you for your participation in this day. I think this is a crucial day and I think memorable day for everyone to remember every day. It's not just one day of 9th of June, but I think we have to remember this day every day, 365 days a year, to remind us all that we have to really work on all the time 24/7 to improve quality and safety for the users, the consumers of any product, any good, any service they are into. So thank you once again, Aparna. Thank you very much, Rajiv, for your time taken out. And thanks to IMED for supporting. And thanks my colleague Rema, who actually been driving this whole webinar, collecting all of you, contacting, preparing flyers and communications. So thanks, Rema, for your wonderful work to bring all together us today here. So with this, I would like to take your leave, and I would seek permission from Rajiv to close this webinar with the insight that we would connect again in time to come in more occasions to conduct such awareness programs for our stakeholders. So thank you so much, Rajiv. Thank you, every one of you present here. Thanks, Rema, for coordinating everything. And once again, wishing you a very happy World Accreditation Day. And congratulations for coming so far from last several years on the global standards. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Rana, for organizing this.
Thank you, Jai Hind.